Hey everybody, welcome back. Today, I'm going to introduce you to one of the most powerful resources that Unity has to offer, the Asset Store. So you've already learned how to import an asset package from our short list of different assets here, and we've already used that to bring in some environment assets and a character asset. But there is another way that we can bring in even more assets.
There is another.
And that is the Asset Store tab, which most of you should have right here. If you don't have the Asset Store tab here, go up to Window, and then down to Asset Store, or hit Command 9, and that should bring it up. So let's go take a look at it. It may sit gray like this for a minute, because it is entirely online, so just give it a second to load. And this window here is a little bit small because it's contained by all of my other windows in Unity, so I'm going to click and hold this and drag it out so that you can see this full screen while I'm working on it and demonstrating it to you. You can leave it in that little window or you can expand it the way that I have, but let's make this nice and big so that you can see what's going on. So here in the Asset Store, there are tons of assets. Remember, an asset is really anything that can be added to our game scene. So these could be sound effects or music tracks, these could be 3D models, these could be 2D pieces of artwork or animation. Just about anything that goes into a game is considered an asset. With that said, there's a lot of stuff here, and we're going to want to learn how to filter out what we don't want so that we can find what we do want. Now, the very first step you should already have done. You should already have a little bit of an idea of what type of game you're trying to make and what assets you want to find. So if you know what you're looking for, that's going to be a big help. But let's say I want to do something simple, like I want to put a new house in my scene, because I'm not super happy with the one that I built out of just cubes. So first, let's search for house. Well, right off the bat, we see some stuff that looks like it might be pretty useful, but there's one major problem. This particular house generator costs almost $150. And these assets down here, some of these look pretty nice, but again, we see $10, $30, $15. I don't think most of you are ready to spend money on this project, and that's okay. So the first filter we're going to use is for the price. You can take this slider and take it all the way from $500 down to $0 or easier yet, just click Free Assets. And we still see this one promoted asset for $150 up here, but down below, all the assets that remain down here will be free. So now we have some good options. If you're ever looking through and you're finding a lot of assets that still don't seem helpful, like I'm looking for a 3D model of a house, you might end up finding a lot of 2D artwork for something that you're searching for. You can also go back up to the top and you can sort out some categories. Like I could select specifically 3D objects or characters or environments, vehicles, that kind of thing. So I'll just refine this to 3D to make sure that I'm looking for free 3D assets of houses. And there's actually a lot of really nice looking assets here. So I'll just pick one at random and see how it looks in my game. So I clicked on the asset and here I am at its web page. I can go and I can look at other screenshots of it to make sure that this is going to be worth my time downloading. Sometimes they even include small videos that may or may not work in your player. But once we're pretty sure that we want this asset, it's time to go and click on download. Now, depending on the size of the asset or the package of assets, this could take a long time or it could be pretty quick. This might also be determined a little bit by your internet connection. After I finish download though, notice this button changes from download to import. So you need to keep an eye on this, and when it's done downloading, you need to click this button again to import. One more time, we need to come up over here when it pops up in the top left and click this import button on the very bottom right. Okay, it looks like it's done importing, so I'm going to move the Asset Store out of the way, go back to my scene view. Now in my project tab, I'm going to look for a new folder that has a name that's the same as the asset that I brought in. So, Medieval Fantasy House, there's the folder. And now I'm going to look for the easiest asset to use. Oftentimes, you're going to want to bring in something that looks like a plain blue square. These little blue cube icons represent completed prefabs. So this should be the model of the house with the texture and everything ready to go. Let's see if I'm right. Alright, sure enough. I'll double click on it to zoom in, and there is my new asset. And you can see because this was created in a 3D modeling program and then imported into Unity, there's a lot more detail in this building than we ever could have achieved no matter how much time we spent if we were trying to build something like this just using the tools available in Unity. Whenever you bring in a new asset, it's good to compare it to the rest of your scene and sort of walk around and test play it. As I walk up to this with my first-person controller, I'm checking to see if the size of the building seems appropriate or if it seems way too big or small. Let's see if I can find the front door. Now this feels pretty good as I walk up to it. You know, the doorway is big enough that I could fit through it. This doesn't seem like a house for ants or giants or anything like that. So this is alright the way it is, I'd say. With one exception that I noticed is I can walk directly through this house. So we might get to that later. Let's look at how we can manipulate the assets that we've brought in. So I'm going to hit escape to get my mouse back, jump out of play mode before I go do anything else. But this asset, just like anything else, can be moved using your move tools. It can be rotated and scaled bigger or smaller, however you need. So there's a high chance that when you bring in an asset, it's going to feel too big or too small, or need a little bit of a rotate or a move to get it where you want it. So just remember that those tools are going to come in handy. Now, if you're bothered by bringing in assets that you can walk straight through, like you just saw me walk through this house, and you want it to feel like it's a solid object that you can't just go straight through, the best thing to do is to select the object and in your hierarchy, expand it. Now, what you want to do is look for something on this model that has a mesh renderer in the inspector. So if I go to the brick here, I can see that there is a mesh renderer on the brick. And this brick object is representing this barrier right here, these corners and this sort of bottom foundation of the building that's highlighted in orange. So it has a mesh renderer, which is what lets us see it, but now we want to have our first-person character controller be able to sort of feel it as well and bump into it. So what this needs is collision. So I'm going to click on Add Component. I'm just going to start typing in COL, which is going to bring up most of my collider options. And the most specific collision that we can give it would be a mesh collider. So if I give this a mesh collider, now when I walk into anything that has this brick on it, I should, at the very least, bump into that brick instead of passing directly through it. Alright, so I can't just walk through this part right now. Now this might not yet be perfect, like, I don't think there's any brick up on the front of this building. So I can still walk in here, and then I bump into the brick. So it's not perfect yet. I might need to go find another mesh renderer to interact with. And I think there's a pretty good chance I can just jump over this. And right, once again, I'm kind of glitched inside of the building, and this doesn't look perfect. So let's go see if we can find a mesh renderer for the rest of the wall that will prevent me from passing through this building still. Okay, here I see wall. This wall looks like it builds most of the building, and hopefully enough of it that if I give a mesh collider that matches this mesh renderer, hopefully I won't be able to just pass through it anymore. But let's see. Add components. It remembers my most recent search, so I'm going to go down to mesh collider. With the mesh collider added, let's see if we can still get inside of this building. Alright, now that feels about the way that it should. I can't just walk straight through a door, I can't just jump straight through the wall. And this is starting to feel like a real object in my scene that I can't just phase through for no reason. So that's a big improvement. Now, one more really important pointer I want to give you about the Asset Store is that we aren't running the newest version of Unity on our laptops. When you're in my classroom, you would normally have one of the most up-to-date versions of Unity and not run into this problem. But right now, on your laptops, I believe that we're all running a 2017 version of Unity. And some of the assets that have been put on the Asset Store since 2017 might not be compatible with an older version. So when you're searching, let's say I want to put a road into my game right now. So I'll go look for just the word road and see what comes up. So I found a really nice high quality set of barriers. Like let's say I wanted to create a construction zone. These would be perfect for that. And they're free, which is great. But turns out we have another problem, that right here the download button cannot be clicked and it says needs Unity upgrade to version 2018 or more recent to work. And we don't have that version right now. You can't upgrade it by yourself, and it's unrealistic to try to think that we're all going to be able to get our Unities upgraded when we're not in the building. So an easy workaround for this, we're not going to be able to get every asset that we want. But what we can do to avoid wasting our time and accidentally finding assets that look good but we can't use, we can go back and we can filter a little more specifically so that we can avoid finding these. So I'm still looking for free road assets, but let's filter this a little bit further. Down below the pricing, you see a section for Unity versions. If you select the Unity 2017, now we should no longer accidentally find assets that we won't be able to use, which should make this a little bit less frustrating, so you don't keep clicking on things that you can't actually download anyhow. So your job today should be fun and easy. Just browse the asset store, look for free stuff that you can add into your game world, download it, import it, babysit that process. Don't just click download and walk away, because you have to click a couple more things to actually get it in your scene. And then, once you've downloaded a few things that are going to be helpful, put them in your scene, scale them, move them, place them how you want them. After you've added some assets and improved your scene as much as you can for today, take a screenshot or two of what you've added and share it with us in the comments on Schoology. Alright, have fun with this, and I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody comes up with.